Welcome to Terra Money TV. I'm your host, Joseph, and this week I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest news and developments in the Terra ecosystem. So this is the first time I've released my weekly roundup on Terra Money TV. This is a personal project that I've kind of been able to partake in and join Eli from the Terabytes team to kind of start helping develop, and I'm just excited to be able to release my content and my content series on Terra Money TV. I know it's been a minute since you guys have seen me on camera, so complete apologies for missing out on making sure you guys had the videos out. But as you can see, I've been able to kind of improve the mechanisms that I've had at my disposal to kind of make my videos a little bit of higher quality, to also kind of improve the way that I delivered the weekly roundups. As always, if you guys are new around here, this is going to be a weekly series where I cover all the latest and greatest developments in the Terra ecosystem. There will always be a thread in the description of this video, and that is my weekly thread where I compile all of the news articles from this week and I conveniently house them for everyone so that you can just go through and click through and check them. So without further ado, remember, we have to take care of business here. This is not financial advice. Nothing that you hear or take from this podcast or from this video is going to be financial investment advice. Please proceed with caution with whatever you do with your wallets. All this is just for educational and informative and entertainment purposes. So let's get into this week's greatest news. This was an extremely busy week, but I mean, when is it not an extremely busy week though? So the first one we're going to have coming up is going to be the news article focusing on the giant Avax acquisition. And so this has been a huge thing that happened this week and is going to represent a total of 200 million UST. All this UST is going to be used to essentially close a huge investment into the Avax ecosystem. The first transaction was 100 million. That would be a simple treasury swap. In layman terms, that means the Terraform Labs treasury has swapped with Avax $100 million worth of UST for $100 million worth of Avax. And that is now in the Terraform Labs treasury. Haven't confirmed it yet if they've already executed this transaction or if this has just been a preliminary agreed upon terms and the sale was executed on private terms. But this is the first acquisition part, and there was a second purchase that happened as well. And that's going to be another 200 million worth of UST went towards acquiring even more AVAX. Except for this AVAX, it will go towards the Luna Foundation Guard 4X reserve for UST. And you heard it right. That is going to be serving the same role that Bitcoin serves for UST in the reserve. So now that it is no longer just simply a Bitcoin standard project, you're going to start seeing that this is a multi-decentralized asset project. And that is key to understanding with what's going on, especially with this update here. This is very crucial. This is an important update and an important thing that happened. I'm sure everyone who's watching this video heard about this, but there are several threads breaking this down. I'm sure Donku's going to release an incredible video on this, and I'm sure someone on Terra Money TV will break this down in the nitty-gritty detail that so needs to be. I'm sure that tomorrow, Saturday, April 9th, in the morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time, typically, Terabytes team and I kind of hop on. It's going to be with Pete and Evan, and we kind of host a very relaxed Twitter space where we kind of discuss the latest and greatest news. And I have a feeling that this is going to be the biggest topic of discussion. So if you guys want to come by and kind of engage and kind of learn a little bit more with me about what this means and implies for the Terra ecosystem, I think that this is a huge move and it's going to bring a lot of controversy for the Ethereum maximalists. But we haven't seen the effects just of yet. But this is definitely in line with the overall trajectory of the ecosystem. And it just kind of goes to a testament to the overall developments that Do Kwon is kind of prioritizing the ecosystem. So definitely a very interesting development here. Definitely going to have to stay in tune with what's going on over there. So next up, we're going to be having Aperture Finance's launch. And this has actually been really exciting. I've been super excited for Aperture. If you haven't heard of what Aperture is a protocol that is seeking to basically bring a little bit of more convenience to the average DeFi user and average TeFi user's experience. Right now, they only have about, if I had to guess, there were probably about 10 vaults where they're delta neutral auto-managed mirror vaults. And when I looked at the vaults, I believe that the highest maximum APY you can get was 39%. While this, for the more risk adverse lunatics out there who like to go participate in some degen farming, this is not going to be the most attractive option. But regardless, in hard market situations and also for passive investment, delta neutral auto managed vaults are key to weathering any kind of financial crisis and any kind of downturn. And so this is going to be a massive product. And if that's not enough to interest you, they will be going multi cross chain. Kwon is an investor on Aperture, so he is going to be kind of involved, I would assume, in their vision. And I know that they have worked with Kwon in the past to help with the anchor situation. So Aperture team, it is a very established, well-groomed team, and they have a lot of notoriety in the ecosystem already. So definitely keep an eye. They will be enabling 7 different chains as well, and they won't just exclusively be degen, or they won't be exclusively delta neutral vaults per se. Who knows what other assets and what other kinds of vaults they would kind of integrate? But their overall goal is to kind of implement and facilitate an auto-managed environment so that people can kind of have that multi-chain experience without having to worry about all the cumbersome wallets, all the cumbersome bridges, kind of just to kind of give the user that inline view of what it's like to interact with Web3 without worrying about your network. So definitely interesting development there that is huge for the Terra ecosystem. Next up, we're going to be covering what is going on with kinetic money. I know a lot of Luna whales are getting involved with kinetic money. A lot of people think that this is their ticket to paying off their mortgage. Well, I'm not going to advise anyone to do that because none of this is financial advice. Regardless, Entropy is now live. This is a very similar launching mechanism that PRISM protocol did, which is essentially where you deposit UST into a vault. There's a certain kind of window for people to deposit. Once that closes, there is a grace period for withdrawing. As the grace period advances, there is less time to withdraw your UST, and there is maximum amounts that you can withdraw. So this is kind of to encourage a more stable rollout for their kinetic token, that KNTC ticker symbol. And so that will be how it launches. So whenever that grace period ends, KNTC will be traded for an equivalent amount of that UST, and every user who deposited would get that back to their wallet. So that is just how they're launching their token. This has started and has happened, and this is their second launch phase, and they call it Entropy. So this is something to stay aware of if you're interested in accumulating their token. This has been going on, so definitely go over there and check out what's going on in Kinetic. Next up, we're going to be covering what's going on with Synapse protocol. So Synapse protocol has kind of enabled something really under the radar. I think that the lunatics aren't really kind of realizing how much of a big deal this is. For anyone who is a major farmer, there are 15 EVM-based chains that are massive. You have Arbitrum, you have Boba, you have Metis. There are so many others. And a lot of cross-chain farmers love those chains. Those chains have had issues with UST interoperability, and there were worries about kind of cross-chain duplication of UST. It's a very technical explanation of why there were problems, but Synapse protocol has now enabled UST to be kind of seen and interpreted on EVM-based chains. Right now, only 3 chains enabled it. I know Arbitrum is one of them. I'm forgetting the others, but this thread does cover the ones that have been enabled. I believe it is Optimism, Arbitrum, and Metis. And soon they will be enabling Ethereum, Avalanche, but just the C chain, and then also Phantom. But in total, 15 EVM chains will be enabled with this integration by Synapse protocol. This is huge. This is a massive step for UST spread, and it's going to be a huge catalyst for more farms to open up for all those degen farmers out there. So let's go ahead and get into the next one. This was kind of big for anyone who isn't kind of already in the space. I want to kind of just mention this one because of the fact that a lot of lunatics realize how terrible the distribution is here. Binance has now enabled UST staking, and you can get the full anchor APY, but that is with an asterisk. That is not a full 20%. I mean, it is the full 19%, but it is actually pretty bad the way that they've broken it up. There's this chart at the bottom of here where it kind of explains what is happening. As you can see here, you have to lock up for a duration period of time. And then beyond that, there are hard caps on how much UST liquidity can get the percentages. And right here, you can tell that 19% gets only $200 gets the 19%. In reality, this is not big for the average lunatic. This is actually kind of just terrible news for the average lunatic. But for people who do not surf Web3, who do not have the savviness to kind of understand what's going on with wallets and to kind of engage with Web3, this is still huge news. if you were to lock up $30,000 anywhere else, besides a major hedge fund, where are you going to get nearly 14% APY? That is the value statement that these centralized exchanges give to everyday ordinary users because they don't have to worry about, they just enable directly with KYC. And so that's why this is a bullish thing for just overall UST adoption. I do think that it is a little bad in the sense. I mean, it's terrible the fact that they're scalping that much in terms of being able to get your full 20%. Regardless, it's important for us to keep educating users that they can get more from this. And I think with apps like Alice, Outlet, and Cash, that will kind of put these things out of history, and we'll just forget about Binance in general enabling this. So definitely not the greatest news for the average lunatic, but still rather important. All right, next up is Bitrue. Bitrue is the first centralized exchange to enable Terra network as an accepted blockchain. You can now deposit UST directly from the Terra blockchain into Bitrue and vice versa. And you can also withdraw UST from any other chain that is enabled on their platform. I'm not sure what all chains there are. There may be some chains that you can't pull your UST, but this is the first of its seen kind of integration. And Bitrue has been that pioneer in adopting UST. They were the first ones to kind of really get it. All right, so the next one we're going to be covering Kwon. Kwon Radar has kind of been a little quiet up until the AVAX situation happened. He doxed his dog. There's a cute video where Kwon blows on his dog, and it's super adorable. But regardless, he kind of broke down with what happened with AVAX. So if you're curious and you want to get a little bit of insight into the man himself, why this AVAX purchase happened and this AVAX partnership happened, this thread compiles that and makes sense of it. This was overall in line with what the vision and the overall direction that Terraform Labs has kind of been pointing for UST growth and spread. So this is just another stepping stone for that. And it's important for you guys to kind of go over there, check out this thread, and read into the mind of the person who's really kind of driving this innovation and driving this mass adoption of UST. So don't take my words for it, but go read this thread. This is a very in-depth, detailed thread that you guys need to go read. Next up is going to be the Terraform Labs kind of continue coddling, or I guess supporting developers in the Terra ecosystem. This week, they kind of released the TFL Moonshots, and this is specifically going to enable support for anyone who's trying to build an ambitious project on the Terra blockchain. They are going to be seeking and reaching out to people who want to kind of implement and build on the Terra blockchain. And this is going to be a lot of some very speculative projects, and they want to be able to help co-found and incubate those projects and give them the resources needed to flesh out. So if you are a builder and you're interested in being able to build, definitely check out what TFL Moonshots is doing, and it's kind of being modeled after the Google X project incubator system. So super important if you're trying to build something important on the blockchain. So let's go up to the next news, Nebula. Nebula has rolled out their tokenomics schedule. And so this is kind of a huge deal. They've kind of announced their Nebula token. And Nebula is that whole protocol where they're enabling clusters, which is the closest thing I can describe that to is ETFs on the blockchain, where you basically have these groups of assets that perform a certain kind of action on the blockchain. It could be arbitrage opportunities. It could be liquidity providing. It could be several other kinds of mechanisms, but these clusters would be auto-managed for the investor, and no one would really have to worry about what's going on there. So they've released their Nebula token, and this has kind of unleashed a little bit of a backlash in the community. A couple people not excited by that release token schedule. As you can see here on this chart, there is a massive amount of inflation that you're going to be seeing from the token in year one. In general, I do not know if that is an anomaly of an inflation. I have seen a lot of lunatics respond to this tweet and kind of flame for that amount of inflation. But as you can tell, that this does kind of taper off, and there aren't very significant amounts of tokens kind of being allocated for the specific contributors and the people that are in behind the scenes, and kind of a testament to the teams like prowess and also notoriety. Terraform Labs themselves have seed invested 5 million UST into Nebula protocol. So I don't want everyone to kind of be taking this whole like flame about the token distribution as like, oh, they're just scamming, they're gaming the system. This is just another terrible altcoin release. It probably isn't that. Terraform Labs would not be putting money on the table to support this project if it weren't the case. But it is not financial advice. Please do your own research. I could be completely wrong. So let's go on to the next little bit of news. So this one's going to be coming from extraterrestrial. So extraterrestrial, it seems like I don't have the headline for this one, so that's unfortunate. So we'll just go ahead and take the headline down. But extraterrestrial has gotten a makeover this week, and they're no longer called extraterrestrial. They're actually called Terrascope, and they've received a full holistic overhaul. And it's a very nice rebranding for them. It looks super clean, and it is now the de facto place to go get your information on the Terra blockchain, and also to track all the prices on the Terra alts. Overall, incredible to see a community-led project grow in this way and to really outperform the products that were outlined by Terraform Labs. And this product has been continuously innovating. Full support for the Terrascope team, but the OGs extraterrestrial will always be remembered. So next up is going to be the Anchor group for the Anchor prop. So Anchor prop 24 and 22 are going on. 22 has been approved. 22 will be bringing Anchor to will be bringing B Atom to Anchor. So that will be deploying later today, I believe. That will be executing. So by the time you're watching this video, B Atom is live. Prop 24, it may be seeking to kill Anchor airdrops. So if you want Anchor airdrops to continue, please go over to Anchor and make sure you're participating in this vote, because discussions are getting very heated on Prop 24. All right, next up, let's go into Loop Finance. Loop Finance has had a very busy week. They've kind of integrated with Anchor, and they've developed a very interesting Degen vault auto management. And so this is going to interact with how you leverage on Anchor. It's going to essentially coddle and manage your looping strategies, and that's why they call it the Degen vault. And it's going to kind of harness your ability to be able to loop your assets and continuously loop them. And so this is obviously, there are a lot of lunatics out in the community that kind of support this kind of strategy and deploy it. I personally do as well. So it is an important implementation. So definitely check this one out. And then next up is going to be a Medium article that they've released. If you're interested in Loop and you're trying to stay in the loop, this is a major Medium article. It goes into massive depth about what's going on over there. So definitely check this one out. Next up is going to be PRISM Protocol. So PRISM Protocol is in the heat of it right now, and Legimi released a very detailed thread about the options that lay before them. They've been performing incredibly well, but there is a situation at hand where PRISM needs to kind of decide where their priorities lie and how to kind of boost TVL, and to also make sure that they're staying in line with Ampers. So Legimi does an incredible job here, kind of breaking down all the things that are happening here. Goes into good amount of details, so to help PRISM holders and PRISM investors to kind of understand what each option would impact their portfolio. So definitely check this out, and I will be having a video coming with Legimi or Ryan to kind of cover what's all going on over there and any more alpha leaks. So be on the lookout for my next Terra alpha video. Next up, we're going to be covering Mars. So Mars Protocol is kind of launching, and they've rolled out the first endeavors of the Martian Council. And so this week they released this update. It goes into more things than just what's the biggest headline. For me, the biggest headline is straight up the fact that they've enabled the first vote. And the first ever governance vote is going to be in potentially bringing Anchor as a line of an asset in the vault. That's going to open up new forms of leveraging. And so any user who's interested in having lines of credit on for Anchor token on Mars, this is the proposition that will bring it and make it happen. So if you're in governance in Mars, make sure to go vote, make sure to go participate. I do not see how this won't fly through. It's a pretty obvious one to bring in. And lastly, but not least, this is the quick news this week. Just real quickly, Atlo Protocol held a very successful. They hit the total raised amount goal for Proteus Finance. Next up is Leap Terra. Leap Terra closed a massive amount of private sales, and TFL was in that bout of private sales. About $3.2 million have been invested in Leap Terra. They're kind of one of the first burgeoning wallets coming out of the Terra ecosystem. So will be interesting to see if Leap Terra kind of takes over the Terra Station wallet, the Chrome plugin extension. Maybe Leap Terra will be the winning horse when it comes to all this wallet war stuff. Next up is going to be Apollo. Several things happened with their war chest this week, and they've seen a lot of growth in their war chest performance. So it's very important to go stay in tune with what's going on over there. So definitely go check out Apollo. Next up is going to be Astroport. Astroport has been shining. Their governance has kind of launched, and they've been performing incredibly well. And it's been a resounding success. A massive amount of Astro tokens have been locked, and we're starting to see the beginning effects of the Astro Wars. And then lastly, but not least, is Team Kujira, kind of in line with what's going on with Synapse Protocol, enabling the EVM-based chains. They will also be enabling EVM-based liquidations, and their cross-chain liquidation queue has passed audits. And so very soon we will be seeing cross-chain liquidation events happening via Kuji. And that will be it. So that's going to be this week's news. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please like and subscribe. If I missed any news, please drop them in the comments. I will see you guys next week. Bye.